Today I'm mucking around with the 1994 GMC Government Motors C3500. The TPI needs to be replaced, rebuilt, whatever. So, on with the show.
Disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. Do not attempt this at home. Vitiated how-to will not be responsible because you decided to be a cheap ass and not hire a professional.
On with the show.
Right. First thing I'm going to do is locate the fuel pump fuse. On a bunch of the other ones, the newer ones, it's in a fuse box that's either like right here or over there, over in there somewhere, with a fuel pump fuse in it. But because this is a 94, and I think 94 and under, it's right there on the firewall. If you walk up to it, fuel pump fuse, junction box, fuel pump relay, optional relay, and ground. So what you're going to do is unscrew these little things. They should be able to unscrew by hand. They're plastic, so you don't want to use a socket or anything that you could damage them with. Set it where you can get to it again, next to the other side. I'm doing this before I do anything, so this is just my way to do things. If you guys watch my other videos, I have a unique way of doing things. It's those two. So what you do is you pull this off. I thought there was one more somewhere. There's another one right there. You may need to get to it, you may not. I don't really care, so this is what I'm doing. Ouch. That's the fuse. As you can see, there's the fuse. Down and disconnect the fuse like so. Next thing, I have to reconnect my batteries because I had to disconnect because it's been set a while. Next thing I'm doing, I'm gonna drain the fuel out of the fuel line. Put the key in the ignition, like so. Yep, there is no fuel in there now. All right, now on with the show. For me, I'm putting the fuse back just so I don't lose the damn thing. Because I'm sure somebody's gonna come around, start messing around. Because this is at my wife's uncle's house. I'm trying to fix it. So, put that back. You don't necessarily have to do all this. I'm just doing it so I don't lose my items. All right, next thing, disconnect the battery. They say all you gotta do is disconnect the negative. I have learned the hard way. I've been shocked too many times. Alright, next thing I'm doing, I'll take an air filter off. And get it out of the way so I have access to it. The TBI setup. Throw that in the yard. I'll get it later. Lift this up. Disconnect that. Throw that in the yard. I'll get it later. Now here comes the fun part. A bunch of these damn videos I've seen that have you pull all these vacuum hoses off, but they don't tell you what they are. Okay, so now, like I said, bunch of videos don't tell you where all these damn vacuum lines go. So, as I'm doing this, I'm going to tell you. This one here goes to the PCV valve right there. You just pull that off. It's a little easier said than done. It being... well, shit. Well, I broke the PCV valve, so I gotta buy another one of them, it looks like. Alright, well, we got that off. I done had all this off once. Next, I'm pulling off the EGR valve vacuum. That goes to that part there. Here's the EGR valve. There's one in the back. That goes to it too, that's gotta come off. This here, for this ring, goes to the valve cover. This vacuum line here goes over to the cruise control, which is there. And also, because it's got a T there, goes to the charcoal box here. So you go ahead and pull that off. And according to everything I've read, you're supposed to be able to pull just the injector housing off and just replace that. So I'll go ahead and do that and show how to do that. I mean, it's fairly simple, but I'll show you. Okay. Now that I got the hoses off, I'm gonna pause for a minute and I'm gonna show you that just this part of the injector system, the TBI, can be pulled off. There's 3 bolts. You got that one there, that one there, and this one here. I took them off with a T25, but I wanted you to see the location of them. Keep track of these bolts, because you're gonna be screwed if you ain't got them. Next, I'm going to take the connectors off the injectors. Pull this out like so. For right now, they can stay where they're going. Next thing is to pull the line off, the fuel line that's in the back there. There's one there, and there's that one there. I believe it's a 5/8 and a 3/4. 5/8. Yep, it's a 5/8 and a 3/4. Should break freely, fairly easily. They may be fuel in the line, may not be. Just depends on how you did the steps to drain it. Come on. Usually right now I got a bunch of little choice words. But because YouTube and their little crybabiness, I'm being monetized now, so there ain't a few choice words. But doing this, there's gonna be a few choice words, so I'm gonna try to refrain from it, but I can't promise anything. Because if you watch my other videos, I'm a sailor. Okay, I'm gonna start on the next one, but it's gonna take me a lot longer than normal people, so I'm gonna show you how to do it real quick, how to break it free. See, I'm going to the right. All right, I'm gonna stop the video so I can do it. All right, now next thing, I got the hose out of the way, is to pull these nipples off. We used to call them nipples. I don't know what they're called nowadays. Again, do not lose this, any of this, because you will be going to the junkyard. To find new ones, and they may not be in as good a shape as what you got. Come on. And that's how you remove the throttle body and fuel regulator housing by itself. Okay, now I'm disconnecting the Ist valve, I think that's what it's called, and I'm disconnecting the TPS here. I'm gonna leave it attached to that. It's just gonna be a lot easier to deal with in there. Okay, next I'm disconnecting the throttle cable, and supposedly this is a kick down cable, but if you follow it over, I'm pretty sure that's the cruise control, because here's the vacuum hose, vacuum line that I was talking about earlier. So all you do is pull this little piece out, pull it off like that, and disconnect it. And for good measure, because if you watch any of my videos, you know I'm good at losing everything, I'm putting it back. All right, now that I got everything else out the way, I'm gonna remove the 3 bolts that hold this. You gotta make sure you move the connectors out of the way, so you just pull that. I've already loosened them up so I can undo them by hand, so it doesn't take me forever, because you know some of my videos are really long. They take a 1/2 inch. If you take these off, you can use a 1/2 inch socket. If not, do like I did, and I used a 1/2 inch wrench. And I thought I had it hand loose. Guess not. Okay, now I got them hand loose. They're pretty long, so. Just throw that out in the yard. I'll find it later. And it pops off fairly easy. But be careful that you don't drop anything in the block, because you'll be fishing it out the engine. And that's what it looks like. And as it looks, it's pretty shot. But it was still running like a kitten though, purring like a kitten. Just for good measure, I put the bolts back, and now I'm putting 2 rags because it's sitting outside, not in a shop. So it's easier just to deal with it this way. And I'm covering it up like so. Because honestly, I don't know how long it's going to take me. A little side note, while you're rebuilding the TPI on this 94 GMC, you might as well just take out the IAC valve, because it's going to be screwed up. And that's probably my fucking problem as it is, because none of the gaskets are there. Son of a bitch. Ah, fucking idiot. Well, since you have it off, see, I have it, put it back on to find more problems. But since you have it off, you might as well just go ahead and do it. It's only 50 bucks. Alright, before I start working on this damn thing, let's move this off to the side. Let's talk about injectors for a minute. This is actually for a single barrel one, but it's also application for the dual tune port. This is what it looks like. I'm just showing you what the package, everything in the package is. You get more detail later. That's one. There's 2 of them. That comes in this package is the whole kit for the rings and everything. You got all the seals, the rings, then you have the I can't remember, it's a ring, but there's an actual name for it and I can't remember it. Copper gasket. There we go. Sorry, brain dead. Okay. Now, this here. Here's the rebuild kit for everything. Here's everything else. There are some duplicates of what's in this, but it all comes in a kit together. And some of the reviews I read, some of it were missing pieces and parts, and you know how Amazon is. But supposedly this is from AC Delco, their professional edition, which in other words made in China edition, which whatever. So there's that. And there's somewhat instructions how to do it, ballpark anyway. And then there's the spring that goes under the fuel regulator. You take this, when this comes apart, you'll see what I'm talking about. This was offered, and this was offered as well, so I bought all of it together. So that way I got everything, I ain't got no problems. So that's what I got in the packages I got. The links for everything will be in the description. Alright, I'm going to show you what I did. I'm not going to bore you with me doing it, but I'll show you what I did. Notice the gasket that's on the bottom of the throttle body of the TPI. This is from where I took my flap wheel. You got to be gentle with it because it's cast aluminum, and I went as such. And you just work your way around until you get all the gasket off. Be mindful, try not to get nothing down into there. I have it in a vise. Again, you got to remember, it's cast aluminum. So you open the vise and you just barely put enough pressure on it. If you crank it down too hard, like I normally would, you're going to crack the throttle body. And then you're going to be screwed. And then you're going to be mad, so I didn't tell you. But I told you. So I'm going to get back to grinding this and I'll start it again. Now that I got this all nice and clean, all this was a, I don't know, some kind of fiber gasket. Next thing I'm going to do take all these out. Take the injectors, take the fuel control out. It's not a T25, that's for damn sure. So it looks more like a T20. T20 it is. Set that in my little container to hold. Take my drill. Start taking things apart. This is a little magnetic bowl to put all my stuff in. Now remember, you don't want to put it back with this, and if it's real tight, you just got to be kind of gentle with it, pulling everything off. Be mindful as you're doing it. I'm setting, as you can see, everything I take off here, I'm kind of setting the screws off to the side because I don't know what's going to be what. If they're going to be different sizes or not. Knowing GM, it's info. So you got that. Let's see what I tell you. Different length. All right. So the long ones go up in the top for the fuel regulator. So there's that. Now, here comes the tricky part. There's a spring under this damn thing. There's a spring in here. So you got you gotta be careful when opening this damn thing. And there's also, I forgot. Yes, no. Yep, I forgot. 3 more. I know I was forgetting something. And I just looked at this too. That sucks. Those are 15s. Oh. Well, hey, that came off pretty damn easy. Well, as you can see, this came off easier than I thought it would. Turn it upside down and just kind of jiggle it around. That's all I did. Okay, before I try to clean the gasket off, I'm going to take the screws out of the fuel regulator and take it apart. So that way no particles get down into there. And I'm just going to use my flap wheel. These are a T15. You got to loosen them up with the ratchet first. And you probably have to clean all the junk out too. Out of the screw holes where the torque goes. Because for some reason there was a lot of dirt and gunk in there. And as you notice, I'm separating my screws. These go to the fuel regulator. And remember, like I told you, it is spring loaded. So you better hold on to that damn thing for dear life, because it's pretty strong. $200-something thousand miles, yeah. Got his money's worth out of this damn thing. It is shot. Yeah, the spring is still pretty strong. But you can see the corrosion and everything on it, so it needs to go. That's probably part of what happened. All the rust and gunk just clogged up the injector. So, all right, now time to get the flap on. See, flap wheel does nicely. But remember, this is still a type of a sandpaper. So if you do it too hard for too long in one spot, you're gonna diminish the metal. So just enough to get down there, polish a little, and move on. That one there, I'm probably gonna have to scrape, but I'll give it a shot. All right. Yeah. Now, took that off, took my screwdriver. As you can see, the flappy wheel kind of took more than I wanted it to. So, find something else to use to get that off. Try to scrape it off with a screwdriver or whatever, but try not to damage it too much. Okay, now that you got all the little gaskets off, there's going to be some gunk and grime around. Just take a little screwdriver, kind of hit here and there, and there'll be some up in here. Hold it there. Take your screwdriver, go around that on both sides. You don't want to mar it, you just want to go around it and get the dirt off. Or loosen it up so you can come back with the brush. And you just come back in there and hit it with the brush, your wire brush or whatever you got, Scotch-Brite. I didn't get none, I forgot, so I'm using the wire brush, which kind of works out better for me, I think, in the long run. See, as you can tell, keep going back to it. When you're cleaning up around this or around that, try to keep it at an angle so that way you ain't got too much gunk going in here or coming into this. You're going to blow it out when you're done, but still. Now look over everything, make sure you got the gunk out. Looks like I do. You don't need glasses, but I think it's okay. All right, once more over with the brush. For good measure. And all that's from what I did before I started the video. Well, somebody walked off with my blowgun, so we're back to, I'm using some electronic dust and line remover, lint remover. that you got that took care of and clean and everything, put it up somewhere to where it's not going to get gunk all over it again. Alright, now I've started on the fuel bowl, the fuel regulator bowl. Took it apart, gloves on. Got some starter fluid. This is the bottom of the fuel regulator bowl. It was inside there. It's gunked up and there was a lot more stuff in there, so I'm just throwing it in there for now. And I got out most I could, so now I'm going to try to clean it some more with the starter fluid. You can use starter fluid, brake cleaner, blinker fluid if you can find it. Just do the best you can, get all that lacquer out of there that you can get, and the rust and everything else. And as you can see, it's getting darker and darker. And I got all I can get. So now I'm gonna let both of them sit in there until I'm done doing what I'm doing. And there's that. Oh man. All right, next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pull these injectors out. If you notice, right here on the edge, there's a little lip. Take you a flathead screwdriver and something to pry with, to pry on. Take and hold it down like so, and just pop it right out the seal. Same thing on the other side. You just pull it right out just like that. Next thing you know, look at all that garbage. Man, somebody been running the gas way too low on this. That's the reason why I'm having to pull all these, is because somebody decided to drive on E an awful lot. So in return, created problems. Okay, now that we got that out the way and all that's garbage, come back in here with my little brush. We step back over here, get my little brush, get up inside there a little bit. Try to get what you can of the rust up in there. Little known fact that most people don't understand or know, rust is a cancer. And if it's there, all it takes is a little piece to start the virus, if you will. And it can take and spread across metal real quick. And especially with all the ethanol gas that they have in there now, especially down here in the South, they're using way more than 10%. That's why the gas prices are up so high. They want to make more money. And you can tell by the fuel economy too. Taking clean in, trying to get what I can. The gasket came off easy. Polish that up. Make sure there ain't a gasket on this. Because you got the gasket off the other piece. Now all you gotta do is just kind of play with that a little bit. I'm gonna tap it with the flap. Now I'm gonna repeat this again because I used the grinder. That flap wheel is still sandpaper, and some parts of this throttle body, the aluminum is so soft that it will take it away. So you use that at your own risk, and this video is entertainment, so whatever happens, it's kind of your fault for being a cheap ass, not hiring a professional to do it. So let's get back to what we're doing. Okay. Looks like I got everything. Okay, that there I was just trying to clean it up and make sure there wasn't nothing wrong with it or anything. Bottom part here, there was a Y gasket here. You got to get this gasket off and all the dirt and grime. I'll use my grinder brush. Now everything else is going to have to be brushed. Unless you got a little Dremel, which I do. And for me to get all that garbage out, it's just easier for me to clean it with this. It's so much easier to do it this way. Takes a little longer, but hey. Pull a tiny little brush. Spray. Look at it, see what it looks good or not. So now you get the idea. All right, so I'm putting this back together. My new spring, the bowl for the fuel regulator, and the diaphragm for the fuel regulator. Okay, that little piece that came out, you put it back the way it was. Spring goes back in like such. And the diaphragm, this is the bottom of the diaphragm right here. That is the top. There's only one way for this to work. It goes one way. So it's kind of almost idiot proof. So you have a nipple there, nipple there, and a nipple there. So, with that being said, you align the diaphragm with the nipple. And then you take the fuel bowl, the regulator bowl, and you align it. And then you push down. It's a little easier said than done, but you're supposed to have some guide screws. Ooh, yeah, buddy. I think these are it. I'll screw them in and find out. Check that shit out. Woo! Guide screws came with the rebuild kit. Imagine that. Alright, back to onward and forward. That other diaphragm was pretty easy. It wouldn't split like this. It didn't feel it. Okay. One at each corner. I'm using my cup. Oh, I ain't trying to advertise for nobody, but cup stand big enough to where it works. Okay, so there's the guide screw there, and you just screw it in. Screw it in by hand. Because if you haven't noticed already, all the screws for the different sections of this throttle body, they're different sizes, length, and thickness, and different thread. So one screw may go in the 4 spots, but it will not go in the other 8 or 9 spots. Okay. So I'm strong enough for now to be able to do this. So I just pushed it down. In the future I probably won't be. But today I am. So take the other screw. Do as such. Just keep hold of it. I don't know where it's at. Oh, there it is. Hand tighten. Don't torque nothing yet. Okay, now I'm doing the other two screws. Alright, now that I got all four screws in, time to pull out my torque wrench. I rented this from AutoZone for 50 bucks. You can buy one from Harbor Freight if you want. Harbor Freight was out of my way, so I didn't do it. So, since this is inch pounds, and the specs call for 21 inch pounds, so 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna set it. It's at 20 now, because that's the lowest setting. Then I'm gonna go up to 21, and then I'm gonna have at it. When you're using the torque wrench, this is your lock. So that way you can lock your handle down and nothing happens. And when you're doing this, you want to do it to where it clicks. But you don't want to hold it that far up. You want to hold it back like you're supposed to, because then it'll click like it's supposed to. Hear it? That's where it stops. Feel the little popping? Then you know that one's done. That one's done as well. And this keeps me from being He-Man and tearing shit up like I did that PCV valve. But with 250,000 miles on it, probably need to replace it. So, Yes, I should have waited this and that, but since it was in my hands, I like to do what I need to do while it's in my hands. Alright, now that I got that took care of, on to the next. Okay, now I'm going to do the injectors. Here's the housing. Before you touch the injector, make sure you clean out this housing. I did once, but I didn't go back and double check. Inside that right there, all this right here, where the O-ring's going to go, that has corrosion from where aluminum and the fuel touch. So it corrodes it. And I went to go put the O-ring on to test fit it, and needless to say what happened there. It got all nasty, and that's that. Alright, so what we're doing now is putting the brass gasket on first. That's to support the O-ring. That's going on next. There's them two. Then you gotta break out my favorite part, the lube. So I have my lube here. I have my injector. Okay, now take the O-ring, a little bit of lube. It says use engine grease or transmission fluid. I'm not too keen on the transmission fluid. So I'll use the grease. Make sure you got what you need lubed up pretty good. This next part is really important because it's not just a slam in. It's got one direction and it goes that direction. Okay, you look at your injector. There's a nipple right there. And let me find a pointer. There's a little valley right there. One side it's to the back, other side it's to the front, right there. Now this, whichever injector you put on whatever side, that said nipple, so I can be more specific, that said nipple right there has got to fit in that valley. Has to fit in that valley. Because if not, well then, you'll get the idea when you do it. That's why you always test fit everything to make sure. Okay. And you set it like so. Now you can't cram it in there like you're used to doing with lube. You gotta slowly put it in there. Gently. Kind of like the back door, if you will. If you got to, flip it around a little bit so you can look at the bottom of it to make sure you're going where you need to go. Because it gets a little tricky, and you're going to feel it push. So now it didn't seat right, so we got to do it again because it didn't do the way it was supposed to do. For whatever reason. These gaskets, the O-rings are kind of funny sometimes, the way they are. Might be a little too big than what it's supposed to be. So then you just go back around it, a flat object, and just kind of tuck it in there. Not too hard, but so that it belongs there. And then you try again. Son of a bitch. There we go. Little this, little that, little this, little that. Same thing with the other one. These O-rings seem to be a little bigger than what they're supposed to be. So you just might have to be forcibly about it. Get your other injector out. I bet that's what the son of a bitch. I just figured something out. And that's what they were talking about. Okay, we're still going. Next one, do the same thing. Make sure you align the nipple where it belongs, whether it's forward or in the rear. Make sure the rear is lubricated. You got it positioned correctly, and you just push until you hear like a little pop, and then there you go. The injectors are in. Alright, now we're ready to put the fuel regulator housing back on top of the injectors. Get your gasket out, and yes, if you bought the same ones that I bought, same injectors, you've got a whole entire kit for one side, plus a bunch of other little extra stuff here and there and everywhere else. But don't count on that, because sometimes that kit, the other kit, might not have everything you need. So that's why I went ahead and bought that, because other stuff was missing. So put that gasket like so. Took my other gasket, put it like so there. And you put it on correctly. And if you paid attention to how I did it, 3 screws and the 5 screws. It says in the instruction manual that you're supposed to put thread lock on there. I'm not. You can if you want. I've just had bad experience with thread lock with small things, because this is aluminum, and the one that they call for, the 262, was like 200 foot-pounds of breakage of shear force or something like that. And I'm not taking that chance. Because if this don't work, then I'm gonna have to get back in there and fix something. So I'm not sweating it. If you want to do it and you're very confident about what you've just done, have at it. That's all you. Me, I'm not doing it. If you watched any of my other videos, it'll tell you why. Remember, righty-toddy, lefty-loosey. Righty-toddy, lefty-loosey. There's going to be some extra parts to your kit. The big one, because it's for two different styles. I think it's the pre-90s and the 90s. So there's going to be a few extra things here and there, so don't freak out. Alright, now that I got all the screws in there, as you can see, get my torque wrench back out and adjust my torque wrench. To 28. What the directions say. So that's what I'm gonna do. So all 8 of these screws get 28. Just for reference, it's a T20. In case you forgot. That one. That one. That one. Okay. Now, I had to go get my screws for this. The fuel meter body. That is this. This is the gasket for it. It's a little wide. Put on it like so. It's not the straightest in the world, but it'll work. Now you can see it a little better. This also gets 28 inch-pounds. To set it on, it's real simple. You got a nipple. That nipple must set in that space. That nipple must set in that space. So you just make sure the gasket's lined up real good, and then voila. Make sure you got the right screws. Now, I am putting thread locker because of what these are. Those other ones are smaller. This here is a little bit bigger. I'm using a really small thread locker. So if you're unsure what you need, I'm not telling you. Because I don't know if this is even right, but it's what I'm doing. Putting these type of gaskets on, you got to do evenly. So you put a little bit of pressure one side, and you go around like you're putting a tire on. Go to the other one, you do the same thing. Do it till it's snug. Now you work your way up. Around to the next one. Does it really matter which one you do first? I don't believe so. The instructions didn't say either way, so I don't believe so. If there does, I'm sure some know-it-all just want to say something in the comments. They always do. So you just take your time with it. Don't get in a hurry. Just got to remember, this is aluminum. And you can shear the thread. Okay, there's that. Now, when you use an extension, this is important because using an extension will give you more torque. So you got to be mindful about using extension, because I have to use the extension in the back one. So you got to be mindful about that because you get more torque out of it being tall. Okay. The other two I don't need it, so I'm not taking a chance. Ooh, I got that one first time. Now in my 20s, I'd have probably broke this and had to go get one from the junkyard. Because I was 235 pounds, I was benching 350, and I was curling 290. So yeah, I'd have broke this. Now I'm lucky to pick up a gallon of milk. Well, so far so good. There you have it. It's put back together. Now we get to find out if it works. All right. Now we're putting the fuel nipples back on. I want you to look at them. They are totally two different sizes. This is kind of like a plug and play kind of thing. If you look at these, only one's going in one spot. It ain't going in the other one. So, you put the big one in the big one, and the little one in the little one. I do suggest you do this before you put it on the intake, because if not, you're really going to be fighting. Unless you didn't take the whole throttle body off and you just took that off. If you just took the injector pod off, then that's gets you to see what everything looks like, because you're going to have to put it back together, back on the engine. Oh wait, what do I see? Wow, looky there, that is ancient. Made in the USA. Wow, they actually made something here. That's amazing. These fuel inlets, nipples, whatever you want to call them, the torque on these is 21 foot-pounds. So if you can do it, that's fine. If you can't, that's also fine. I just happen to have one, so I'm using it. Because I don't want to over tighten them, and I don't want to under tighten them either. I'm doing this all over again. God damn it. And just when I said I was being funny about being strong, weak, point taken. There we go. And now to put it on. All right, well, here's what I used. 1/2-inch socket, 3/8 ratchet, 5/8 wrench, 3/4 inch wrench, 1/2-inch wrench, 3/8 extension, flathead screwdriver, wire brush, 3/4 socket, if you got it for your drill, the T25, T15, these are Torx. It's a T25, a T20, and a T15. Crescent wrenches, adjustable. Little socket set. You can get away with this, but you gotta have the 3/4 and the 5/8 wrench. You have to have that. Now, the torque wrench, this is a smaller one. It's a 3/8. That one there is the bigger one. It's the 1/2 inch. And that's pretty much it. I'm gonna walk over here, and that's mainly my tool set right there. That's what I used. Everything else you use is optional. Oh yeah, where's those damn brushes? I set the fucker somewhere. Well, you need some brushes like that. Or you can use the Scotch-Brite if you can get away with it. But I'm telling you, you're gonna need that and that. You've seen that. Especially if it's dirty as mine was. And a little 1/4 inch ratchet. And that's about it. Anything else you want to try to use, have at it. But that's what I used. Well, when you're putting the gasket back on, be mindful which one you have. The one I took off this truck is not the one that belongs there. I put the new one just like it back on, and it created a problem. It over revved to where it revved real high, and of course that was a vacuum leak. So I did a little bit more research and looked around, and come to find out this is the one specifically, only one for the 94 TBI, for the 94 3500 GMC. That's it. The one I took off was incorrect. So be mindful of that. I think it was 81 to 93, something like that. It's in the instructions when you get the instructions for the rebuild kit. It explains all that, but I think it's up to 93. It could be either one, but 94, it's this one. When you're putting the TBI back, be mindful. I'm not for sure if it makes a difference which one goes where. I just know this one goes on this side and that one goes on the driver's side because I took them off. And I also know because there's a piece missing on one of them that helps identify it. So that's pretty much all there is to it. And another little inside thing about this. If you put the wrong seal on, you're going to know it. Secondly, it's going to suck to be you because you better have another one. I put the other one on and all I did was run it for a few minutes, and I had to use a flap wheel on my grinder to get that damn thing off. So once this is on, it's pretty much on. So be mindful of that too. So back to it. I got the area cleaned off. Make sure I got all the gunk out of it so no more vacuum leaks. Line it back up where the holes are. It's pretty simple because it only fits one way. And pretty much that's it, like so. And then you just line this back up and you start putting everything in by hand. You don't want to torque nothing down, you just want to get everything started by hand. To make sure it's correct. That one's there. And now this one. And then you just put the throttle cable back and put all the hoses back where you got them from. This one goes there. That one goes to IPV valve, I think. CPV. Give me a second, I got it in my pocket. CPV valve. I broke it. Trying to take the hose off, so I had to go buy another one. It was real cheap. And Advance actually had it, and nobody else did, so I've been getting a lot of shit from there lately because they've actually been having everything. Then there's this. EGR valve, I think it is. You got one that goes from there you got the one that goes from there to the back there. Then you got a nipple here. That goes from there to the front of the TBI. I'm pretty sure that's how it is. If not, look at the front of the video. After that, you just tighten everything down and start it up and it should be fine. If you have a vacuum leak and you're not for sure which one of these hoses it is, oh yeah, I gotta put the fuel lines back on. It's 5/8 and 3/4. If you have a vacuum leak and you can't find it and you know it's not the gasket underneath this, take all these out and plug all these holes to where the vacuum's only going to be from itself and not all these other garbage things. And then if that's fine and then it runs normal, then you just troubleshoot each one, whichever one until you find it. Ain't no big deal. And that's all there is to it. Thanks for stopping by. I guess if you want, I mean, it depends on how bad your grommets are. Before you put the fuel line back on, there's one on the nipple here, or male adapter, whatever you want to call it. But I was going to change it since I had to take it all apart again, and I can't find those, so I'm not going to worry about it. You pull that off with a little screwdriver or whatever, and then you go through the little bag of stuff that you got and find one that matches close to it. And it looks to be that one there, but I'm betting that's the only one. Yeah, that one matches. There was somewhere that said that this kit was missing one of these grommets, but no one would say what it was, or nobody said what it was. Now I know what it was. It's the rubber grommet for the fuel line inlet. So make sure you got two of these. They're going to be exactly that size too. See, like you got the two green ones that are here. They're smaller. I don't think they're going to, they might stretch over it, but they're not made for it. So luckily I think I have one laying around somewhere, but be mindful when you get this kit from Amazon. This is the place where it came from. And I'll put a link in the description. If your grommet's not bad, then it's okay. Will you get away with it? Yeah, probably. But like I said, I had to take all this back apart again because originally I wasn't going to change them. Because I wasn't worried about it because they looked fine. But since I took it back apart again, then I'm changing them. And then you just kind of slide it back on. Like so. Get you a little lube or whatever to seat it before you put it back in. Just kind of lube it up a little bit, that way it helps seal it better. And you just do that for both sides, for both lines, and then you're good to go. And then you're done. Well, it's never a dull moment with me. I stand corrected. I forgot these two inlets were different sizes. That one takes to P8. The passenger side takes the little green one. I forgot. that they were two different sizes. Oh well. One's the in and one's the return. It is what it is. Just a little side note. If you gotta change out the PCV valve, it's gonna be a bitch to get out. And to put it back in, you're gonna have to lube the PCV valve itself. Lube it up pretty good and tap it in so gently so you don't break it. Just a little food for thought. Now that you got the IAC valve installed, you've got to align it. This here, the little nipple thing, that's for the clip. For this to clip onto, has to be aligned like so, down this way a little bit. But you can tell just by tightening it. It's a 1.25 inch wrench. So be mindful, you'll snap that damn throttle body. Then you just put the connector back in, like so. And there's a reset procedure on this. You got to get the vehicle up to 40 miles per hour for the ECM to reset it back to normal. If it doesn't go back to normal, I don't know if mine's gonna go back to normal or not, but if it does have a high idle, the manual says to get up to 40 miles per hour and then the ECM will reset itself. And that's pretty much to it.